What's up, everyone? I'm nerd commentator Frankey Smith.
I'm entertainment journalist Tyler Coates.
And every episode, we have our comic correspondent and comic book expert, Coy Jandro.
Hello there.
And welcome to DC Studios Showcase, where we dissect and go over all the latest and greatest from DC Studios. We have a jam-packed episode today.
I mean, royalty is coming in, right?
I'm glad you know he is royalty. And I'm so glad that you understand the gravity of what we're going to have for you in store today, because we're having the iconic, Jim Lee.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about Creature Commandos, the finale, episode 7.
That's right.
We're also going to talk about Vertigo, DC All-In, and the Absolute Universe, which right now, I can tell by your eyes.
I have no idea what that means.
Don't worry. I'm going to be here to translate for Coy. And then after we throw all this comic book stuff at you, I heard you have a quiz for us.
I may have a little quiz.
Okay.
It might be harder than you expect.
I expect it to be hard because of why?
Because Tyler's quizzes are crazy.
Oh, no. I was going to say because Tyler's the fanciest guy.
Oh, my God. Messed up the shirt.
Tyler is the fanciest guy I know.
He's going to be some fancy questions.
It's very fancy questions.
And he's pitting us against each
we'll
other.
Figure it out, yeah.
But let's start with the finale.
Creature Commandos.
Of Creature Commandos. I mean, what a ride this entire series has been.
Yeah, it's been really fun. You know, again, I'm not a comic books person. I'm not really an animated adult animation person, but I have to say I really enjoyed this.
I was going to say, we're slowly turning in Coy.
I like it. Week to week, I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
But a bunch of stuff happened this episode. We got Nina's origins. Frankenstein, I think, was killed. We also lost Nina.
Yeah.
Tear. Okay. We found out that Cersei's vision was true.
Yeah.
And we got a new roster for any future Creature Commandos.
Right.
So.
Well, I want to say first, the Nina origin was kind of surprising to me because I was like, oh, this is like a creature from the Black Lagoon kind of coded character. So, but I mean, also leading up to it, I should have known it would be a little bit more human and personable. Yeah.
But yeah, Nina, this entire time, it's clear that she has not been in the streets like everyone else, right? And that's why she's been reacting this way to everything that's been going on. I don't think she's ever been exposed to this level of violence.
Right.
I thought there's actually a character called Cyborg. Have you heard of him?
I think so.
He is a character. He's been in Justice League. He's in Young Justice as well, in the Teen Titans. He's iconic.
Okay.
But his plight has always been that he had one type of future, and his father, who was a scientist, in a desperate attempt to save his life, turns him into a cyborg with some sketchy tech, right?
Okay.
And I got that same feeling of this iconic story when I was watching Nina, where the father just wanted her to exist.
Yeah.
You know, he just loved her so much, and he did any means to do so, even if it was a little weird.
Yeah.
And to me, I felt like I was watching a story of the troubles of someone who has a special needs child.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Even the mother kind of giving up and being upset was all this is way harder than it needs to be.
Right, yeah.
And it just shows the amount of patience and time and work that goes into working, having a child.
Right. I mean, that is sort
help.
of the beautiful thing about this show is that all these characters are so relatable in different ways. I mean, the whole point of it is that, are they monsters because that's how they were created, or is it because of how they're seen? And I think that we've learned that most of them are just seen as such, as opposed to being monstrous people.
I agree.
Coy, how does Nina's, is this origin story track with her comics?
So that's what's fun about Nina is there's not a lot of Creature Commandos comics. There's actually runs of characters from Creature Commandos that aren't called Creature Commandos. There's one called Agents of Shade, and then there's another that is more Frankenstein-centric without a team that Nina's in. But she has two very different origins, even though she's got very limited print time. So I was really excited because I didn't know which way they'd go. And one of her origins, it's as the show is, which is her dad had to develop this, and she, developed into this over time with love and protection. But there's another one where I think as a commentary on that one, you find her dad actually stole her and she is of that race, and he took her from that race of creatures that she was.
Okay.
So I was wondering throughout whether the twist was going to be the double, whether it was going to be that, but then I got to really invest in this story that was kind of a double James Gunn-ism, where he has no problem killing off guys. Like, he kills a lot of dudes, but I don't see him killing a lot of female characters. He's very protective. He's very nurturing. So the whole time I was thinking, like, who's gonna die in the finale? And the only character I thought was safe was Nina. The whole season, I was like,
Okay.
you know, Nina's probably safe, because I was waiting on her origin, and I thought it was gonna be a flashback that was part of the episode. We got everyone's flashback. We didn't get Rick Flags, which I like, because I feel like he's our eye line.
But you sort of know.
And we build with him.
Yeah, we know a lot about him too.
And the son is kind of like that. We don't need it. But I love that Nina was a double down, because her origin does the thing in great writing where you love the character the most right before they kill him. And it was the only character I thought was safe. And we got an official canon DCU origin from those two disparate origins in the comics.
Yes, there are risks involved, certainly. But if it pays off, poor sweet Nina won't need to lug around an extra 30 pounds of metal to stay alive. We're transforming her very DNA to help her breathe despite the fluid in her lungs.
I feel like they kind of play into that innocence of Nina. I'm glad they went that route with her
Same.
origin, because it also kind of drives home the point that Amanda Waller was keeping these people in captivity,
Yeah.
you know, and most of them were innocent. I think
Yeah.
Dr. Phosphorus was the only one who's like, wasn't innocent.
I would love to hear the ranking, you know, the scale
Of like who's the
evil.
most innocent.
Yeah, to innocent with
I mean,
Nina and Phosphorus on either end.
no matter what, I think that is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
Nina for sure is the most innocent. I mean, I guess a debate could be made for Weasel, but we see him do some questionable things
Yeah,
since
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Nina's never killed anyone that we know of. And so her first kill was going to be, you know, the princess. And that was something that she didn't take lightly. And she only did one because her newest friend and her closest, you know, ally told her that the fate of the world was on it. And she went in there with that weight and then got clapped. And, you know, and I think that was so tragic. And what I found interesting was that was the first moment I was like, man, it was too easy for that princess to kill this girl in water. And there's a moment where we see a darkness in the princess' eyes, and then we see her kind of go back to the doe-eyed princess. And it made me question her motivations with Rick Flag Sr., right? I never questioned whether or not she was attracted to him because, like, I'm a real person and I was attracted to this cartoon.
Right.
Right? But then now I'm like,
And now you think she may have been playing him the whole time.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
proven that she is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, we find out that she did do all of this
Yeah.
to kind of disarm him. And, you know, we were asking, like, is Rick Flag
It's a little
whipped?
convenient for her, I have to say,
What?
that he's so hot.
Right?
I mean, it's not like she
felt
didn't work
"Ugh."
very hard for it, you know?
It could, you know, I mean, obviously, I think it is convenient, and I'm sure her and Cersei were like having a giggle. Like, she was like, "Hey, I mean, it could have been worse."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm sure they were talking about it.
That moment of the water was cool, because if you're watching it from the show perspective, it is that reveal for the princess, and you get to be like, which way was it? We've been wondering this whole time. Like, she got to be a mystery, and I really liked that the show was written so well. It actually was a mystery. I didn't know. I knew I distrusted the princess in the beginning, but I was like, do I have my own biases? And then I was
Right?
wondering throughout, but also in the comic books, in the one run, The Frankenstein and the Creatures of the Unknown, Nina, is very much the innocent we see her here. But in Agents of Shade, she actually leads the team. So
Okay.
I was wondering if it was going to be, once she gets her first kill, is she going to suddenly become like the bride's position where she's
Yeah.
like the leadership role? So it was cool that one split could have led Nina in either direction.
No. I don't know how to kill someone.
You shove the blade into her belly and twist. The water is yours. Home field advantage. She won't even see you coming.
Yeah, I felt like that scene overall gave me so much anxiety, right? Because at that moment, I'm like, no, don't kill the princess.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't want that to darken Nina. Like, if she did go through with it, also getting Rick Flag, like, I'm like, please understand what he's saying, Amanda. And like, wondering if she would actually react to it favorably.
Right.
And I think that that's a theme that happened with all of the fight scenes in this episode. I think it had the most fight scenes of any episode.
And Weasel the whole time, he's not fighting, but he's fighting against. I love the Weasel element of like his stuff with the pack and him finally finding a wolf pack and then him leaving that to go protect his people. But the whole time he's fighting against his instincts and he wants to save her. And that was such a beautiful internal fight, and Phosphorus almost making it a physical fight, which was terrifying.
I feel like with Phosphorus fighting Rick Flag Sr. and also when he fought Weasel, I felt like in both fights, it was like a brother fighting. Like obviously he's very dangerous, but there was like a sibling like friendship.
Well, he's holding back
aspect.
a little bit. He could have
Burned
easily
him and
destroyed
Chris.
them. Yeah.
Look at you scaling.
Yeah.
One of my favorite images of the show is him like double middle fingering going through the tanks. We know what he's capable of. So he's clearly got some energy of brotherliness towards them.
And there's also the fight.
Or maybe
with-
it's just, again, self-preservation, I think, is a theme with a lot of these villains. We talked about this back when we talked about the Penguin. Is he doing it for a brotherhood or allyship, or just like, I need this ally right now?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know how much he values Weasel and his input. And I think it's already been established in the Suicide Squad too. He doesn't have to worry about like, if I kill him, what would Amanda Waller do? These people are disposable to her too. But you may be correct. Like maybe he's like, I think a little bit was feeling. I think a bit of it was I don't want to hurt him. But yeah, maybe some of it was self-preservation. But speaking of self-preservation, we got to talk about The Bride versus Frankenstein. That was like almost cathartic to me. I felt the catharsis she did to like whoop his ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And be free of it.
Be free.
Yeah.
Like we watched him chase her through decades.
Yeah. I hunt centuries, I would say.
Yeah.
No, I love The Bride. I think, again, like, I think it's a really interesting twist on that character. I think just even the character, she's the bride, which I think that her identity is always wrapped up in the man that she was created for. And so, like, it's always been a struggle for her to, like, be seen as something else.
I agree. It's so hard to fight that identity and have it tied into it. And I was kind of happy, even though I loved Frankenstein's character. I loved David and what he put into that character. When he fell, I was like, I hope he's dead. Was the first thing.
Well, here's another debate. Is Frankenstein alive? Is the bride alive?
I think they're alive. They're reanimated, right?
Yeah,
so that would suggest that they're alive.
Did you guys see the post-credit scene?
Oh.
What was the post-credit scene?
I didn't see the post.
Yeah, there's a post-credit scene.
Frankenstein is alive.
Oh, no.
Damn.
I was like, thought we were talking metaphorically, but then I realized like,
Oh,
How
I
did
didn't
we
know.
miss the
I missed it too.
post-credit
Well, fuck
scene?
that guy.
I'm so sorry, bro. There's a post-credit scene, and
Damn.
Did I see the post-credit scene?
it's
did
him.
not.
It's him sitting across from another old woman, which is very ominous.
Now I'm only more sure of the connection we have. What kind of soup is this?
Sparrow dropping soup.
Tastes disgusting.
And he's patched up, and the last line he has is, and you know, it just means she loves me more because she's so passionate. It's still him doing his thing.
Whoa. Well, the lesson here
I mean,
is-
first of all, you have no business not knowing.
No. Shame on me.
I was just sitting there like,
That
do
is,
I
like,
know I say?
pretty
Do I-
standard
It's
for your
pretty
world.
standard to watch things to the end.
Yeah,
It is
just
so
in case.
standard.
Anyone that missed it, check out the post-credit scene.
I've definitely failed the city. I failed the show. I failed you,
The
Tyler.
Commandos, yeah.
I appreciate if you guys respect me at this
Okay,
time.
all right, fine.
But yes, well, so he's alive. Still fuck that
All
guy.
right, fuck that guy. Yeah.
Still fuck him. But definitely, I loved seeing the bride get that moment for herself, and then later see her become a leader. And I also I think the most harrowing fight of that episode was Nina versus the princess, because I didn't want either one of them to die at that moment.
Is it because you didn't? I mean, why not the princess?
I
You still
thought
were
she was innocent,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was like, all because
See,
Amanda
I
Waller.
was. She's bad.
You thought
She's
she was bad?
Yeah.
I still thought she was innocent because I guess because I don't like Amanda Waller.
Uh-huh.
I love her as a character. I think she's
Right.
an incredible character.
But you're
like,
not rooting for her.
yeah, right now in right now in the comic book, she's doing like almost xenophobic things. Like she's not good, and she's so she's so against superheroes, and I think that's why she was like, to your point, she was so ready to believe in Cersei, who they were just trying to clap a second earlier.
Right, yeah.
And so I was like, I want her to be innocent. And I also felt like, I don't know, I liked the character.
Right.
And then for Nina, the innocence there, I didn't want her to lose her innocence
Right.
by killing this woman.
Right.
And I didn't fathom Nina dying. That wasn't the anxiety. I was afraid of Nina's innocence and
Yeah.
not
The death of her innocence, not the death of her personhood.
yeah, so when I was like, whoa, they're really doing this. That's why they were probably comfortable with her swimming in an open lake, because they're like, she can handle herself,
Yeah.
you know?
Because we've been the baddies the whole time. Like, they knew what they were doing. I also really like that they had that moment, like you said, the doe eyes coming out of the water, because we got to see as an audience that something was wrong, but I did not, again, the writing was so good, I didn't even put together that Clayface might be that shadowy figure in the frame. And I was like, it was right in front of me, and I love when writing can be like, well, duh, why didn't I see that?
I felt as dumb as I did when I found out there was a post-credits scene.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold you.
Well,
But
before we got to the credits, the ending of the show proper does like, I mean, I assume sets up for a second season.
Absolutely.
But with new characters
With
who
new
I'm
characters.
gonna need some explanations for.
There's one character that we met before.
Yes, the shark.
King Shark.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Wow.
Yeah, King Shark, he knows him.
King
He's a
Shark.
god of shark. He's an actual god, and I love that character. I'm excited
Okay.
to see him back. And I like that it was perfect that he would be out of the Suicide Squad. He'd be out of Task Force X into M because he is a creature. One of our characters is Nosferatu, a female vampire. We also saw Callus, who's a mummy, who
Okay.
is now in there as well.
And the return of our fave, G.I. Robot.
Oh yeah, that's
And
right.
he got
that's
new
right, yeah.
gear. And I was so excited to see him come back. Like, I was sad when he blew up.
Yeah.
I was very sad.
I'm
so.
legit excited for season 2 or for live action takes in live action more than I would have thought possible at the start of the season. I knew I'd like the show.
Right.
I didn't think I'd be like, I can't wait for G.I. Robot's next appearance, and I so am.
So what do you think? I mean, like in a perfect scenario, like how would you want these characters to like kind of navigate?
I think
through
the
DCU?
perfect scenario is kind of already coming into fruition, because this isn't, sometimes you watch a show and you're like, I don't know if I'll ever see these characters again, but it's already been established that this is a part of the DCU. So we're definitely going to see some of these characters. Maybe there'll be another season of Creature Commandos, but we're going to see some of them in all of these other properties. And that's what makes this medium so exciting. And I think that's what makes this show so important, is that we know the events that we saw in this is going to impact the future properties. We know that in some way, shape, or form, we're going to see these characters again. Maybe not all of them. But we're gonna see him either live action in another.
We've seen
thing.
Rick Flag Sr. in a flash in the Peacemaker teaser.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know that's soon because we saw Batman in a flash in the Dr. Phosphorus flashback. Maybe we see a live action Dr. Phosphorus in Batman, which would be exciting because that character I feel like is gonna look great in live action.
Yeah.
And there's also the opportunity to do, I've said it a few times, but I'm really fascinated by it because this is the first thing. What is the medium use in each thing? I don't think we'll see them animated in this style in live action. I think it'll be like a CGI take. But since we got the Xbox in footage, since we got the live action Efron, since we got the live action movie in TV, what I'm really curious about is the intended multimedia blending. So I think they'll always be in their appropriate format for the greater story. So I'd love to see David Harbour as Frankenstein. But when we get to Dynamic Duo as puppets, will we get to see maybe Frankenstein as a puppet and see the evolution of the genre, and then he's voicing a puppet? Like, there's just so much possibility.
Endless possibilities. But how do you feel about this? And the
Oh,
DCU
I
in
mean, look,
general?
I love this show. I thought it was really fun, and again, like not something that I would normally dive into. So I'm glad I did.
Wow. Final thoughts, Koi?
I think it's going to make me read a lot of comics I didn't read in the 60s and 70s, in an era that I didn't read a lot of. And that's one of my favorite things about James Gunn is not only does he show me characters that I've like either glanced over, but he introduces me to ones and gives them relevance to the point where if I had read that as a kid or even last year before I met these characters, I might have been like, fine. But now I've got so much connection to them, it's going to enhance my experience of them in another medium. So he makes me love comics more than I already did, which you might imagine is a lot.
Yeah, this series made me feel, I want to say, vindicated. I've been an advocate for DC for a very long time, even before DC Studios started. And now I feel confirmed. I have so much hope for this DC universe. It looks so good. And for an animated series to slap this hard, I just know all the
You
future
feel like you're in
projects.
good hands.
I feel like I'm in excellent hands. I could kick my feet up.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for all these people to be up in my DMs. Frankie, this is great. What does this mean? I'm gonna welcome them. I'm a good person.
You're going to say like, oh, you should read this. You should read this.
You know,
Just saying
why
the DC
not?
Universe Infinite app has a lot of these comics you can check out. It's a subscription service that I recommend.
Well, you in?
What else I gotta do?
But let's start with Vertigo, All In, and the Absolute Universe. I'm just gonna throw you in the deep end
Throw me in.
and get started.
And
And
what does any of that mean?
What does any of it mean? Let's start off with Vertigo because I think that this is something that's really going to resonate with us.
Okay.
So Vertigo is an imprint within DC Comics, but it's a specificity of a type of tone. So it's a more mature tone. It's got more adult themes. It's allowed to have like nudity and language, and it's, you know, a certain demographic lean to. But what I love about it is if you don't know comics and you were to ask me, like, what should I read? It's probably going to be a more approachable Vertigo book. So books you might have heard of, like V for Vendetta.
Oh, yeah.
Swamp Thing, Hellblazer. You can find these at bookstores. You can find these in the great pop culture lexicon, and it leans a little more adult.
Wow, okay.
It's grown-up comics.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the TLDR
Like the
there.
R-rated comics,
The
if you will.
R-rated.
Yeah.
I think Vertigo is specifically made for adults and
Grown-ups.
like fancy adults like yourself.
Okay, good.
You know what I'm saying?
My
and
demo.
What is Nice House by the Sea?
That is Vertigo.
That is Vertigo. I
Okay.
think you'd love it.
Okay.
It's like post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
There's a lot of like betrayal, mystery, and it's written by James Tyrion.
James Tynion the Fourth.
Tyrion? How do you say it?
Tynion. Tynion. His company's called Tiny Onion. Tynion.
Wow. I've been saying his name incorrectly, and I've met him 3 times.
I was about to say,
And
it's
he
okay,
let
he's
me.
not here, and then you're like 3 times.
and he let me. Oh my
Maybe he's
goodness.
used to it. Yeah.
I don't know. He's a nice guy, but
Yeah.
he's excellent at mystery. He is the second fanciest guy I knew. He was the fanciest guy I knew
wow.
before you.
And the power rankings have shifted.
Yeah, and I think it's because I haven't seen his home like on Instagram.
On Zoom.
On
We've been
Zoom.
zooming
And
a lot.
I think the fanciest guy I know, Element, is why I think you'd like Vertigo, because in the parlance of your tongue, it's like the FYC category. So this is a bit more in that illustrious. So
the prestige, if you will,
Yeah.
of the DC.
So that's
Library.
Vertigo.
Okay, that's Vertigo.
Prestige, Black Label, like very nice.
Okay.
But there's also All In. What's All In?
So DC's All In right here is
Okay.
iconic writers, iconic artists paired together, sometimes for the first time on flagship titles. But it is in the main continuity, but it's new jumping on points. So they're not
Okay.
number ones, but it's like a new season of a show.
Got it.
So
got it.
this is like a new showrunner taking over. So it's a really great gateway to brand new takes on familiar characters.
Got it.
So Vertigo will be characters you don't know.
Yeah, all new.
New stories. And then the classics will be in All In.
Got it.
And then there's now something called the Absolute Universe, which I'm going to show you guys. We said royalties coming in. This is some of his art.
Okay.
Jim Lee's art. Gorgeous, right?
And who is that?
This is, believe it or not, Wonder Woman.
That doesn't look like the Wonder Woman I know.
And that's the point. That's what makes Absolute incredible. And Koi will give you the lowdown in a second. But essentially, it's like when we strip everything we know about these characters, are they still who we know them to be? And who are they at their core? It's almost an existential question.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But
Okay.
Koi, please.
Right now, we've got Absolute Wonder Woman, which she just showed you the variants of. We've got Absolute Batman. We've got Absolute Superman. And all of those are interesting inversions on a core principle of who the characters you know are. So Batman, as you know him, is a billionaire. He's in that world. Here, he is a blue-collar worker coming from the ground up. Superman is, instead of the symbol for hope we know him as, is more of a symbol of defense, more of a symbol of a man who's fighting for the oppressed in a way that isn't as up-down. Wonder Woman is from Paradise Island, Here, she's from hell. So the direct inversions make it so there's no canon you could even know before, and this one is absolute Batman #1, illustrated by Nick Dragotta. He draws him in a very big, like monstrous almost kind of way, this huge chess piece, and even the visual cues are going to be different. Wonder Woman's sword, Superman has a very different energy in his art. So this #1 means literally nothing ever has been written in this version of the character.
Got it. All right.
And I think what I like the most about the Absolute Universe is it poses the question, how important are these things that's been a constant in all their stories to the characters, right? We've always felt like Batman being rich was like a core part of his character.
Right,
We're learning that it's not,
Right.
right? We're reading a story where like, no, his character is about fighting for Gotham.
Can I ask, like, similar origin story there? Like, parents
I know
died,
you're
like-
over the pearls. There are no pearls.
I know, I
There are
explained
no
that.
pearls
Okay.
in this.
Well, Batman's a great example because without the money, Alfred is not his butler because
Oh.
he
Don't
wouldn't.
spoil it. For
Well, it's issue
him.
it's issue 1 and it's page 3.
It is page 3, but you think it's in page 3? There's only 12 pages.
Alf 23.
20. Well, I say 12 pages because they're 12 pages, but they're back and front.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Oh, so we
okay.
are saying the same thing.
yeah.
All right, so
That's why
12,
I've been
yeah.
saying 12 pages.
I was wondering. I was like, Frankie reads as much as I do.
Yeah, no,
so
no,
we
no.
see pages as that's interesting.
Yeah. I see page. Because, yeah, you're. Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, potato, tomato.
Potato, tomato.
Is that not the saying?
No, potato, potato.
What?
Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. It's not potato, tomato. Those are different vegetables.
I'm sorry.
Are you like eating French fries like same?
No, but I thought it was like you say it one
Apples
way or
and
the other.
oranges, I think. Maybe you're mixing.
I
that
am.
up.
This is your shirt. I'm very excited. Tyler's the fanciest guy we know, and you're like
Say it.
potato, tomato.
You know, either or. It can
As I say,
however
every
you
day's a
say
school day,
it.
So I
So-
won't spoil how, but Alfred is different in the story because the billions aren't there, and that's an integral part of it. And then at New York Comic Con, they announced we're not only getting these 3, but the next rollout is Flash, who we've talked about, you might have heard of. We're also getting a Martian Manhunter, and we're also getting an absolute Green Lantern.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely an entry point to see, do you like these characters?
Right.
And I think it'll give you a point to be like, which character do I gravitate towards more? Once you find the absolute story that resonates with you the most, I think that'll make it easier for you to go into like all-in stories and like other DC stories, because you're gonna be like, at this core, I like what this character is about.
Okay.
They're almost like synopsises of each character.
Right. I see.
So I think it'll be very cool.
So I'd say Vertigo is your HBO original content. I would say DC All In is a new season of a show you already love, and
Okay.
the absolute stuff is going to be a brand new take on a character you know from a new creative team with a brand new first season.
Got it. Thank you for putting it into information I can understand.
can understand.
TV. Just TV shows.
Just TV shows. But we have an expert here.
Yeah.
We have royalty here.
Yeah.
And he can help you, not just convince you to read one of these, but give us like some more insight into it. So he is a world-renowned comic book artist. He is the president, publisher, and the chief creative officer of DC. So now for the moment that everyone's probably waiting for, but especially me, Coy, and I know it's gonna be you, let's bring out Jim motherfucking Lee. Let's bring him out. I'm blown away.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to hear. Thank you for having me.
What's your origin story as a storyteller? Like, when did you kind of realize the power of storytelling and that being something that you wanted to do?
Gosh, power of storytelling. I don't think I understood it at a very young age. I think I understood the appeal of brightly colored superheroes doing things that I could just dream of doing.
Fair enough.
And those adventures were really an escape for me. My family, we emigrated to the U.S. when I was like 4.5 years old. I didn't speak any English. I watched Superman, the cartoon in Korea. And when we came to the U.S., it was very comforting to see that the Americans had Superman here too, just in a different language. And
Yeah.
so that motivated me to figure out, like, what is he saying? And then the comic books were fantastic because they were the world of Superman and other characters like Superman, and what are they saying? And so they were really motivating to me. And for the longest time, I just thought they were just something I loved as an escape. But as I've gotten older and sort of psychoanalyzed my past, I was a psych major in college and everything, I do feel like they were probably an incredible escape, a real escape from the pressures of being in a new culture, not knowing the language, not knowing how to fit in, always wanting to fit in. and having that sort of low level stress in your life as a 5-year-old kid is, it's daunting. It would be a lot. And so I do think there was an appeal to like opening a comic book and just losing yourself and escaping into this, immersive universe of shared heroes and villains. And for me, comics have always felt like the most powerful medium, more so than literature or film. The combination of the pictures with the words just really teleports me into a space that is fully immersive. I always loved drawing. I drew when I was a kid in Korea, had an art tutor, so I was always into the art. And I bought comic books primarily based on the artist. And so that's why I'm not really a writer, because a lot of the stories, if the artist left, I wouldn't buy the last issue of the arc, right? And so I had no idea how a lot of these great storylines ended. And but I didn't care. I just wanted the art really is what kind of teleported me into this world. And so I've just always drew my entire life. And it wasn't until I got to college and realized I needed to figure out what my career would be, what I would do in the world. My parents wanted me to be a doctor like my father. That's why they moved to the United States for the American dream. And I disappointed them by
being like one of the biggest.
I'm going to draw superheroes. I'm going to draw people with underwear outside their clothes.
Yeah.
They're going to fly around. And trust me, people are going to love it. And they're going to be big motion pictures. It's going to be this. It's going to take over pop culture around the world. And, like, who would ever thunk it, back then? I was just, when I got into comics, I just wanted to have an article in the neighborhood flyer. And now comic books are covered by the New York Times and every news source around the world. It's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, I think at first it was definitely an escape. And then later it was a passion of mine to really recapture the excitement and love I had for these characters, and how can I recreate that in the work I do today?
At what point did your parents give up on the doctor dream?
I think they're still,
Yeah,
they are diehard Koreans. They will never give up. They were like,
an honorary doctorate is coming your way or something.
You speak of iconography and imagery, and to me, there is nothing more homecoming than the bullet. The moment that was announced, I felt like I was home. It's the symbol I was born into comic books.
Can you
it was
explain what the bullet is?
Yeah, I don't know
for
what
the
the bullet
DC
is.
curious.
So sorry. So the DC symbol that is adorning DC Studios, DC Comics, this great unifier is the DC bullet. It ran from 76 till 05, I believe. So it's, to me, 04, 05. It's the symbol of DC Comics to me as I see it. And it just unified all of this as one thing. And I'd love to know what it meant to you to have that back, how that happened, and that unifying force behind the bullet.
Well, let me just say that logo was designed by the legendary visual graphics designer Milton Glaser. He did the I Heart New York logo,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
of
so
course.
there's a bunch of logos that he's done, and I think DC is the most recognizable by the bullet logo that we've returned to its full glory. It was fantastic. Look, when I started at DC in '98, that's the logo that was running. And since then, I've seen 2 or 3 other logos. And Peter and James come on board, and they're like, "No, we want the DC bullet." And it kind of showed like the clout they had, and they were able to make it happen. And so we were very thankful that they were going to bring back this legendary logo that so many fans, generations of fans, really associate with DC. And I love the fact that it's a circular logo, and it's very different from our main competitor, which is a rectangle. So there's a lot of elements that really speak to how different DC is from all the other competing sort of shared superhero universes.
You was saying like Peter and James so casually, and I was like, Peter Safford and James Gunn.
Oh yeah. We just call him Peter.
Just your
Yeah,
buds.
sorry.
Yeah.
Now, word on the street is you and James Gunn are from the same place.
We are from the same neighborhood. Yeah, it's really strange. We both grew up in St. Louis, in the West County, roughly the West County area, and we're a couple years apart in age. We both saw Superman the movie, the first one, in the same theater. Not together.
Right.
It wasn't like
You didn't track down the calendar.
It wasn't a play date or anything.
Right.
But because there wasn't a lot to do growing up in the Midwest, we shared that escape of really diving deep into comic books, both Marvel and DC, and just really. Back then it was just fewer choices in everything, right, for TV, and so everyone had a lot more commonality in what they grew up on and sort of the touch points of pop culture for themselves. It's very different today, but we had that shared experience. And then Peter Safran and I he's a couple years behind me. We went to the same university.
Oh, wow.
And and so we were there at college together. Our paths had never crossed, but for sure we walked on the same bit of pavement on the
Yeah,
sidewalk together,
totally.
minutes apart, I'm sure, over the 2 or 3 years that we shared in
What's
university.
that movie, Sliding Doors?
Sliding doors.
Yeah. No, look,
Or
I
also
think,
just like your shared universe, honestly.
and I'm sure for both Peter and James, our paths crossed many, many times. So, and look, and I'd also worked with Peter as a producer back when DC was sort of in the middle, wrangling all our characters and storylines between all the different media groups that wanted to use our characters. Because he was involved in so many other films between, Aquaman and Shazam, I was really happy with their announcement because they were a known quantity. I had that connection with James. I had seen him on the set of Suicide Squad and had worked with Peter quite a bit behind the scenes on different TV shows that he was developing. So it was a pretty easy transition working with them as they came on board.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows. Everyone knows, at least in our world,
Yeah.
how big of fans you, James, and Peter are of the actual content of the characters.
Sure.
And I think it's bleeding through in the work.
Absolutely.
All of the new work, we've been updating Tyler on like all the tea that's going on in DC. And
Okay.
we just taught him about Absolute.
And he's still on the show?
And he's still on the show. He's like, what's going
He
on?
didn't throw the notes and say, I can't. I
There's
cannot
a
do
lot
it.
that's overwhelmed me, but I have to say
Sure.
I've learned a lot. Every day's a school day, as I like to
He's
say.
doing great. You're
Right.
doing great,
Thank you,
sweetie.
thank
I
you.
love it. But we just told him about the Absolute run,
Sure, okay.
which is incredible. And what I really love about it is the way that it kind of shifts some of the things that we thought were core components of these characters and how they just change it to something else. What excites you most about the Absolute universe?
Yeah, the Absolute Universe to me represents a new opportunity to have our cake and eat it too, right? So when you're dealing with characters that have been around for 85, 90 years, like what can you possibly do that hasn't been done before?
Right.
And so being able to do stories at Elseworlds or Black Label or now the Absolute Universe allows us to play on known sort of what the audience already knows about these iconic characters and then kind of put those expectations and their understanding of the characters and really play around with it and deliver things that might surprise and delight them in ways. And so it allows us to keep our core Superman, Batman, DC Universe line going, but then also do something that's dramatically different that gets a lot of new customers, new fans in the door. Because sometimes it's very daunting to pick up a comic book and say, like, there's 85 years of history. I
Right,
feel,
yes.
if you're OCD, you
I've-
feel like you should read all of it.
Yeah, I've
you know,
been
to understand
gathering
what's
that
going
a
on.
little
Right?
bit. Yeah.
So Tyler's on, like Superman 38.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But
1940s,
to me,
yeah.
that kind of makes it. It's like a lack of preciousness around the characters. I
Sure.
think that you allow so many different views of them, so many different
Yeah.
I guess that's really
It's
what
still
it is. Yeah.
risky, though.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel
It's super risky, and,
yeah.
and it's hard in that. So here's the thing: there's all these different imprints. I'm going to walk you through it. So Tyler, we have Elseworlds. So Elseworlds
Yes.
is the characters that you know, but the known conceits, their status quo is dramatically different. So it would be like, what if Clark Kent grew up during the Revolutionary War, right? And so lots of things will be changed in that canon. Under Black Label, we do stories that are true to most of the known modern conceits of the character, but we take it out of continuity. We allow the creatives to basically tell a beginning, middle, and end. Characters can die. They have more creative freedom with it because they're standalone stories. What we're doing in the Absolute is you don't want to stray too far from the known conceits because then it becomes Elseworlds, and you don't want to do something that's so standalone it feels like Black Label. So you're really building a parallel continuity where the characters are recognizably Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, but at the same time different enough that they feel like they're worthy of a different take on the characters, right?
Right.
So if you don't change enough, then it becomes like, why do you do it? If you change too much, they become unrecognizable. So finding that right tonality is really critical to the launch, and they nailed it, and I think the fans are responding to it. And there was actually one more imprint that we had, which was Superman Earth 1. The premise there was, what if these superheroes existed in the world today, right now,
Okay.
right? And so these are the kinds of things that we do periodically, but being able to do a whole line allows you to generate enough marketing and publicity and interest among the fans to make it a big deal. And it uplifts not just these books, but all our line. It creates incredible interest across the line and actually increases sales for all our competitors too. And we noticed that even during the New 52, which we did back in 2011, is that sales lifted across the line for every publisher, and the store retailers were ecstatic.
So it's really just kind of like, I mean, it's encouraging more people to kind of get into comics.
Yeah, because you're coming
with
with first issues. You have no, like Coy has no advantage over you.
Yeah,
per
I like
se,
that. I like
right?
that
When
idea.
you read Absolute Batman, you guys are on the same starting page. He might understand more of the
was gonna
references
beat me,
or the
yeah,
Easter
and so,
eggs,
yeah.
and like, oh my God, there's a reference to Harvey Dent. Like, what does this mean? So he might get more of those references, but at the end of the day, it should be a compelling story that you don't need to have known anything else about. And that's what makes it exciting for new fans.
That's from a storytelling standpoint. From a imagery standpoint, I know your iconic designs and redesigns have been something you've played with through the years. Are there any redesign elements you particularly love of these characters that you want to speak to?
Yeah, I think they went big and bold with this, because that was the other thing, is like, you don't want to do it where they're in essentially the same costume. So in the Earth 1 stuff, Superman put on a hoodie, and that was like a big moment. And in these, I feel there's more of a sort of a Japanese manga anime influence, particularly Nick Dragato's work on Absolute Batman. There's a big chunkiness to it, which is real, like both cartoony and also very visceral. And so I think they've really hit the right medium, sort of the happy balance of pushing the limits of what these characters can look like, but still making them feel very recognizably the iconic, superstars that they are. And so, on both the story level and the art level, I think they just really checked all the boxes in terms of what you want in a new imprint.
What I found interesting about these different takes on the artwork and the designs was initially when a lot of fans saw it, they were like, oh, I don't know about like this bat symbol and things like that. And it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to us. Like, did you see any of that stuff where people were talking about it without knowing what it was? And were you thinking to yourself, like, just wait till you see how cool this is? 'Cause
Yeah.
if you don't know, Batman has this huge symbol and he fucking kills in it. He takes it off. It's an axe. He's like putting it on. His ears are like knives. It's awesome.
Well, and then he's got these arm appendages that allow him to walk above the crowds. And again, it's just really like looking at, all right, if you have someone that's focused on using a bat as a design, what does that mean in terms of the weaponry, the gadgetry, the defenses? And they did something where it was pretty dramatically different from previous takes on Batman, but it still feels like it's plausible and believable. And so I think they did a good job of doing that. Otherwise, it's just another suit with a big bat symbol on it. But having that bat symbol come off attached to an axe, that's pretty badass. And it's 85 plus years of Batman, and it took 8+ decades to add that to the lore and mythology. So it just shows you how much life there is in these characters, and so many more stories to tell.
I love that he's like super dramatic too. Like in the comic books for Absolute, Batman is like a messy bitch who lives for drama. Like every chance he gets, he's like, I'm gonna put my symbol up. I'm gonna embarrass you. And it just feels like they're really having fun with the character.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm having a blast.
Yeah, I would say Scott Snyder, he's written a lot of projects for us. I've worked with him on a Superman project, but he is like the quintessential modern Batman writer. Like, Dark Knight sort of universe to what he's doing with Absolute. He's just killing it. And in some ways, I feel like he's showing off at this point. Like, I've done it all, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to do this trick that you've never seen before, and I'm going to pull this off. Yeah, he's got a big battle axe on his chest. Yeah, it's going to work, and you're going to believe it and love it. And he can make those big swings because he's just done so many great storylines and built that audience and trust with the fan base, where he can go and push it now and do things that might have been really kind of ridiculous if he did it in like his first take on Batman.
I love that Battle Axe was in front of us the whole time, and we never saw it.
Never saw it coming.
Battle Axe.
Yeah.
But going from Batman to Batman, I'll admit the first Hush run was the thing that got me back into buying physical DC comics. I'd fallen off for a couple of years, and then Hush was instrumental to my collecting weekly again, and it changed how I read comics again because I was in high school and life happened, I fell off, but Hush got me back.
Yeah.
Hush 2 is probably the biggest announcement for me in the last few years. What got you back to wanting to do interiors? What called you with Hush? Is there a greatest hits element to the characters you didn't get to hit in the first time? Like, why Hush 2?
Primarily, I miss drawing like interior art. The last time I did it really was, I think, Suicide Squad for Rebirth, I think, so about 8 years ago. And I've just been really sort of relegated to doing covers here and there. And I was doing them just so I would make sure I didn't forget how to draw, right? So like sitting down and do it. But telling a story is a completely different muscle set, different part of the brain that gets exercised. You're going from focusing on composition, lighting, and draftsmanship to storytelling and pacing and all the other stuff that comes along with just drawing. And so it's just been fabulous. It's just been so much fun sitting down, doing all these sort of incredibly nuanced, subtle bits of storytelling, where you're creating, fear or some sort of horrible, feeling of impending doom, right? And do you convey that more powerfully by not showing it versus showing it? These are sort of the choices you make as sort of the director or someone that's putting the story together. And so it's been fabulous doing that. And but it was a challenge because I hadn't really drawn, panel to panel interior work for about 8 years. So I had to really retrain myself both psychologically and physically to do it because it's a very demanding look. It's a full-time job, and I already have a full-time job, and so how am I going to carve out the time to do this? So that was a big part of it. It's like finding the time and the mental stamina to sit down and sit down for hours on end, because what I found myself doing is I would sit down and draw for a little bit, and then I'd pick up my phone and go on to Instagram for a few minutes, right? And then I would go like
really familiar to me.
and so I had to retrain my brain to really focus on the drawing piece of it. And then physically sitting in a chair for 6 hours, 7 hours drawing, it's really hard on your back and your hand muscles and your nerves and all that. And so that took some, it was like a physical component to it. I didn't have to work out or lift weights or anything, but you had to sit there and get past the pain that you were feeling in your hands and your knuckles and stuff like that. And so that took 3 months, I think, really, for me to feel comfortable. And now I actually feel like I'm in the zone, in the pocket, so to speak, and the drawing comes faster to me, and the confidence that I can get it done faster is back, right? So
and that first Hush is 20 years ago now of the greatest hits of Batman villains. It's kind of informed a lot of these great miniseries. Even though it was in Canada, it's very contained. Is there a character you didn't get to work on then you're excited to know? And is there a style difference in your art between 20 years ago and now that you've noticed?
Yes and yes. Yeah, for sure. Look, I think the trick with Hush is you want to deliver something that has the nostalgic vibe, that you're paying off all the people that read it 20 years ago. But at the same time, I don't want to retread and do exactly the same thing before, because I think that's creatively pretty boring and not very exciting. And so if you look at the costumes I'm drawing, they are influenced by the current costumes, and then the goal is to leave the book at a certain point to hand off to the next creative team so they can advance the continuity going forward. So we want to make sure there were exciting things on both sides of sort of the divide. Jeff and I coming back was a very quick way to kind of, solve a complex equation very quickly, which is 1, do something big on the all-in line for Batman, 2, allow me to kind of get back in. And I've been part of every big relaunch or launch since New 52, Rebirth, whatever. And so I want to be part of this all-in experience just because that's the fun of what I get to do, is sort of manage the line from the top, but also then be in the trenches with other creatives, fighting that monthly deadline, trying to get the stories out there. And there's lots of times where I go why did I sign up for this? Everything was fine. I spent time with my family, I was exercising, good health. And now here I'm at 2 a.m. trying to,
spend time with the Bat family.
Yeah.
Do you have deadlines though?
Of
Jim
course.
Lee?
Yes, of course I have deadlines. Yeah, it is a strange situation where obviously there's a conflict. You want to be wary of the conflict of interest, and I feel bad for my editor because I'm also his boss's boss, and so. But I tell him, look, you got to do your job, and I will be the freelancer in this. And maybe there will be times when I will put on the publisher hat and say we should do this. But for the most part, yes, I have a deadline because I am imposing myself onto their schedule Batman should not miss shipping. I wouldn't allow another creative to do it, so I can't really allow it for myself. So we created a schedule that allows us to do 6 issues. First issue ships last week of March, and we worked it out mathematically. We should be able to do it. Yeah.
I think because DC is like such a vital part of popular culture at this point, and comics in general, but I'm curious if there's popular culture that really influenced you that wasn't comic book originated, and how that kind of like make their way into your work.
Everything and anything, really.
Yeah.
And obviously the most obvious ones are comics, right?
Yeah.
Anime, manga, Mobius, Western European comics, all that. Even Asterix. I'll look at anything just to see, like, what are they doing in storytelling that could be useful for the way we tell our stories. But then outside of that, I was a huge Star Trek fan growing up. I think that was probably my favorite show, Hogan's Heroes and Star Trek, the original series, right? And I would say the stories that were told in the 3 seasons of Star Trek still sit with me today. I'm a big fan of Strange New Worlds, which is the Captain Pike version of the Enterprise, and I love how they are, because they're playing the same space we do, which is they've got their continuity, they have their canon, they have diehard fans, but they're going in boldly and really kind of messing with things and rearranging things and making you question, like, wait, is this the same timeline? Is this a different universe? It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, they're taking characters you know and love and doing something different with it and telling new stories, which is what we do, right? And so I look to them as sources of inspiration and how they solve some of the same conundrums or challenges we have with a fan base that knows our content inside and out, but demand to be surprised, demand to be entertained, demand to see something new. And when you have characters that are 85 plus years old, how do you do that? Right?
Yeah.
And so,
how daunting does that get to change something?
It's not daunting at all. This
all.
is the
Not
funnest.
for you.
Like this, like you go like, I get paid to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're in a room with other creatives, like spending the day just talking about storylines or projects we can do, and finally when you hit one, you can feel that chill go up and down your back. You get goosebumps, and you can see the genuine excitement. Like that's, I should pay for that experience, right? Like, so it's amazing.
Are you kind of a fan first in that way? Like when you collaborate with your collaborators?
Yeah. I think everything, unfortunately, I will make references to like Marvel, DC comics from my past as sort of touchstones, and I realize that for a lot of the people I'm working with now today, that this ancient history, right? they're like, what? Like, and they kind of politely nod their head, like that they've read it. But you gotta be a little careful, right? But it's also super interesting, especially at DC, because we've introduced so many generations of fans or characters over the decades. We have fans of different versions of our characters in every generation, and it's not the powers, it's the person carrying the powers, and that's something that I think a lot of younger fans, new fans don't necessarily recognize, is that there's this visual impact that they have because they're superheroes, supervillains, but at the end of the day, it's the person behind the powers that we identify with, that we connect to, and how do we do that?
Totally.
As a longtime fan, you have this unique power, especially now that you're back to drawing panels, where you can put in Easter eggs like about you or your family.
Yeah.
Have you ever put in an Easter egg, like put yourself in there?
Yeah. So in Hush, the first Hush, there's a big scene in a opera house, and I put myself and all the other people, the other artists like Lee Bermejo and Carlos Danda, we're all in the lower right-hand corner. I've put, in the issue of Wildcats, I think Voodoo and Spartan are on a cruise ship. And in the background, I think Scott Summers and Jean Grey had just gotten married over at Marvel. So I had them on their honeymoon in the background. So if you look back, you'll see a guy with red sunglasses and red hair. I think there was a scene in Batman where they're going through the metal detectors in the same issue with the Opera House. And you'll see, I think Wolverine and a couple X-Men are also in the background going through security. I've put my wife's name in chains, like Superman, I think Superman Unchained issue 1. He's bursting all these chains, and if you read up to the side, you'll see "I love Carla" in the chain.
Oh
the
my
chains.
gosh!
Yeah. So I put a lot of like those visual references throughout. Like even on Hush, There's one where sort of Catwoman is tied up with all this ivy that's sort of winding around her body, and Batman's looming behind her. So if you look at the ivy that's wrapping around Catwoman, you'll see Superman spelled out in the ivy and Poison Ivy as well. So they're also in that cover, but in non-graphical ways, because I want the cover to be a reflection of the story that's inside. So, and I just do that because, you know, when you're, like, I don't know if you draw much at all, but at 2 or 3 in the morning by yourself, you want to keep yourself entertained. It's like, oh, I'll put this in here and see if anyone else notices.
Well, hopefully we'll inspire you one day and you can throw us.
Sure, yeah.
I think we're interesting enough.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll
take my name. Just that's fine if you just want to write it in. Yeah.
No, so like there was the issue with Batman fighting Joker and Hush. There's all this graffiti on the wall, and so in the graffiti, that's all the past sort of DC Batman creators, and I put them as graffiti in the background. So maybe you guys will find your way into that.
Now they're DC
Well,
studios.
people are gonna think it's Jesse Tyler Ferguson, unfortunately.
But now it's on wax, so you could get this. That's a perfect way to get him to start reading comics.
Flatter me. Yeah, exactly.
What advice did they give him? What did they steer you towards as the first thing to read?
Oh my gosh, I have received bags of books that are now sitting on my desk at home. I have started Superman for All Seasons.
Yes. Okay, yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
I think I've read the first one. My boyfriend has been a longtime comics fan. So when we started having these meetings, I came home, with the bag, and he's like, "Let me dig in my archives a little bit." And he found I was telling you about it. It was I think from the late '80s, early '90s, just 3 small comics that just charted the history of the universe with the DC, the DC characters. So it's okay, this is actually giving me a good base to start with. And I know Batman and Superman. I mean, you can't be an American and not know those characters, And I grew up with the Tim Burton Batman movies, and those were really important to me. So
do you feel comfortable with the format, reading dialogue and looking at pictures and putting it together?
Yeah, I was never a huge comic book reader, but I've read many graphic novels, and I feel like it's very similar. Just more contained, maybe, less superheroes, but.
Do you read out the special effects, the crack-a-thoom? Or do you hear it in your head like I do?
I try to hear it in my head. I mean, I probably read too quickly because I'm so focused on the words. But this has become an interesting way to dive into this content.
I suggested Superman for All Seasons and All-Star Superman for the cape section. I said Batman Hush. I have a bias, I know, I'm sorry.
Sure.
But I think Vertigo is a really great general imprint.
Of course.
Especially with V for Vendetta and Watchmen and things that have been so cinematically charged. Is there anything you'd recommend on either side of Vertigo or capes?
If you want to read a lot of something, 100 bullets or 100 issues. Right? So that is the beauty, I think, of comic book too, is that we can do incredibly long-form storytelling and keep people's interest in that. And we're bringing back Vertigo next year. We made that announcement at New York Comic Con, and we were talking about how's this, what should we do that's different, and what should we do that's consistent with sort of what made Vertigo so special. And so we're super excited to be bringing that back. And all that stuff is genre standalone content, so you don't have to have read decades of other comics.
Right.
And they're not necessarily superheroes, because superheroes aren't for everyone. And so whether you like horror, supernatural, science fiction, we've got it all.
I know everyone's going to enjoy seeing you here.
Thank you for having me.
This has been amazing.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Okay, Tyler, I heard you have a game to bring us into your world this time.
Yeah. Movies, just movies. I love them. I love them so much, including DC movies, but also other movies. And I came up with this idea. I don't know if you remember our very first episode, Frankie.
Of course I do.
We were talking about Christopher Reeve, great icon. And I asked you, can you name another Christopher Reeve movie that's not Superman? And you said Superman 3.
Was I wrong?
Technically correct.
I was like, that's right, though.
Not the vibe I was going for. I was looking for, obviously, a Remains of the Day shout out.
Rear Window.
A noise, yes, Rear Window.
Show off over here.
So with that in mind, I've come up with this game. So what we're going to do, I have several great actors who have played iconic roles in DC films. What I'm going to do is I have, for each actor, 4 films. I'm going to list them out. The first person who thinks they have a guess. If you're feeling lucky on the first guess, go ahead and shout out the name. We don't have buzzers on this game show, unfortunately. If you get it right, you get a point. If you get it wrong, then you have to sit tight and you have to listen to the other person get the next 3 clues. All right, so I feel like this is an easy one.
Okay.
I'm going to close this so people don't accuse me of tomfoolery. I will not
Yeah,
be
that's
willing.
good.
Yeah, yeah, no
cheat.
I'm just saying,
fact-checking.
letting
With
the
a
people know.
laptop. You got
All
the
right.
IMDb up.
Okay. The first movie this DC actor is in, Gladiator. Number 2, The Master.
Good buzz, Coy. Russell Crowe, he was Jor-El, and he was also Master Commander. He was the Gladiator himself, and the Master, and the Commander.
Incorrect.
Ooh. I think
You get 2 more.
Okay, let me hear
The next 2, Walk the Line.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
That's right.
I
The
knew
Master.
it.
But Russell Crowe's in...
The
He's in
Master, not
both.
Master and Commander.
Oh.
The Master.
That's why he's
got
hot in
got.
the pants.
He's
I
hot.
got.
He's hot.
That's why you need to listen to all the content.
Do you want to know my favorite fun fact about the Superman fathers, though? I don't think this ruins anything. In Man of Steel, both of Clark Kent's dads are Robin Hood.
Oh, that's right.
Because Kevin Costner and Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
Fun
that's
fact.
right. All right.
Beautiful.
Okay. Second performer. First title, Zoolander 2. Tough one, huh? Number 2, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. You mentioned this movie the other day, so I thought maybe we were gonna get it.
I know. Let me go on a limb and let me get the third one.
Skeleton Twins.
Ben Stiller?
Brr,
No.
No. Okay, the last one. If you don't get this, I'm gonna be upset. Bridesmaids.
Oh, Kristen Wiig.
Christmas scene?
No.
It's Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig.
Wow.
Nope, I wasn't actually going to get it.
Kristen Wiig from
Was
Wonder
Cheetah.
Woman.
I know
Was
Cheetah, but
Cheetah.
I forgot
Yeah.
she was in the third movie you listed.
After I
The
scolded
Skeleton
you
Twins,
for
yeah,
being
yeah.
hot to tot,
Yep.
it was me, and I knew the answer.
Yep.
And I almost gave it to
And
you.
you
How
almost
did you
had
not
Cheetah.
How did you not get it? I said her name.
I just did. I knew she was in Skeleton Twins. I forgot she was in Zoolander 2 and the second movie's my brain moved
Yeah.
to her
I didn't
side.
know she was in Zoolander 2. I need to rewatch
Small role, but still counts. Okay, first film, The Double. Second film, The Squid and the Whale.
What are you talking about, Tyler?
I think I
You
have
should
it.
watch The Squid and the Whale. It's a great movie.
Okay.
Set in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Number 3, The Social Network.
Paul Dana? No. I take it back.
Ah!
No, I
said
can't
it.
take it back. I lost.
All right, let's hear the fourth.
Fourth one, Zombieland.
Oh, Jesse Eisenberg.
That's
Maybe
correct,
that's
Jesse
it?
Eisenberg,
Oh,
who played
I
Lex
know
Luthor
things.
in Batman vs. Superman, Dawn
Wow.
of Justice, right?
Wow, yes.
Great.
And I
All
have
right.
to say, I didn't technically get the second one, but I did technically get the second one. So I'm 3 for 3.
Oh, 3 for 3. Oh, she's
Okay.
she's rounding up from 2.
I wanna go ahead.
All right, okay.
I'm gonna get on the board.
First film, The Fabulous Baker Boys.
Okay.
2, Hairspray.
Okay.
3, What Lies Beneath.
Oh, Michelle Pfeiffer?
She got it. Michelle Pfeiffer.
Now she has 3 officially.
The fourth one was going to be One Fine Day,
Wow.
which also stars another iconic actor who played Batman once, George Clooney.
Wow. Miss
overthinking
Baltimore
this.
Crabs is what got it for me.
Exactly.
Would you swing
I
it?
almost,
Lies
I
Beneath so
almost
good.
gave you the hint and said it was the remake, but I didn't.
I didn't need it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't need it. Wow.
All right, okay.
I feel like I redeemed. Wait, is it not 4? You said you was going to do 4.
Oh, I have
It's 4
so many-
movies.
It's 4 questions, 4 movies.
Oh, 4
Yeah.
questions. I was like, give me the W. But you're
No. There's
you
more
guys
to
are
go.
like,
There's
no,
more to
we
go.
have
There's more to go.
I
more.
want to fight on.
Okay. Love and Mercy. Number 2, 12 Years a Slave. Number 3, There Will Be Blood. And number 4, Little Miss Sunshine.
Paul Dano
You
Redemption.
got it right.
Paul
He did
Dano
it.
As soon
the
as you said
Riddler.
little, I said boom. Oh,
You got it right.
wow.
Okay, I'm on the board.
Okay. Number 1, The Lobster.
The penguin himself, Colin Farrell.
You got it. Damn.
Whoa.
I just had
The
to. I had to Hail Mary. I got to get on the
That's
board.
cheating.
No,
he
he just
You
knew
were
it.
talking about it. You were talking about it.
We didn't talk about it, but we did talk about another.
Wow, in cahoots.
Two other, the 3 other movies, SWAT,
Would have killed
Yeah,
it.
SWAT.
I love SWAT.
In Bruges,
Oh,
which
my
we had
favorite
talked
comedy
about the
of all
other
time.
day,
Widows.
and The Banshees of Inisherin.
Dang.
Top
was
10 favorite
great.
comedy of all time.
Got an Oscar nomination for it. It's wonderful.
SWAT's so slept on too, as far as action comedies go.
You know what?
I do agree.
I have to say I've slept on it. So
You're like,
part of the
I'm one
problem.
the sleepers.
yeah. Okay. Broken Flowers. Jim Jarmusch film.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. The French Dispatch.
Okay.
Wes Anderson. Kind of a tough one because there's like 30 people in that movie.
Yeah.
But, okay. Basquiat.
Jeffrey Wright.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, he's so good in that too.
And American Fiction was the fourth one.
Yeah, we would have got rid of that.
yes.
But when you said Basquiat, I was like, who else?
It's funny,
Jeffrey Wright?
Basquiat and American Fiction, the only two lead roles he's ever had in film.
What?
And Basquiat is it's his first movie.
Yeah,
basically.
ever.
And
I
then
didn't realize
30 years later, American Fiction.
That's crazy. We were just
Yeah.
talking about how much we love.
He's
like,
one of the best
Jeffrey Wright.
actors, but he's always just like
He's
a
a good
supporting role.
supporter. Yeah.
All right. Gattaca.
Okay.
The Truth About Cats and Dogs.
Uma Thurman.
I was just about to say it.
I wasn't going to risk it. I was so scared.
This is going to be an easy one too, because the next two, Pulp Fiction and Kill
And Kill
Bill.
Bill.
Yeah.
I knew as soon as you said Gattaca, I was gonna say it, and then I was
Yeah.
like, let me not risk it.
But
I was so afraid
famously-
Ethan Hawke had a small role. I missed
I
it.
was just about to say that. I was like, is Ethan Hawke in something? Because how could he
I'm
not
just going to
be?
pocket that. It's
And
the Paul
that's-
Dano, Jesse Eisenberg thing. I don't want
Yeah.
to tap it again.
I know we're in the same mind because that's exactly what I was thinking. Good.
All right. Fences.
Okay.
Doubt.
Viola Davis.
I feel like that's a tie. They say at the same time.
I do feel like that was.
Yeah, I'm
Was
gonna
it
give
And
it
we
to
both
both
had
of
the
you.
same
When
hedge
she
your
said
bets.
Fences, I knew it was Viola Davis, but once again, I was like, is Denzel in it?
Yeah,
I was also
yeah,
like, there's a
just-
supporting actor in Fences. I'm not thinking of that's like a lead.
Be
Who,
safe, yeah.
She's
Just
a lead in
but
Fences.
anyone else that like I was worried about the rest of the cast of Fences. That would have been a. I thought he was
Yeah.
misleading with
No,
Viola
Fences
Davis.
is
Just
just
the
the
two.
two of them.
Yeah,
it's
Denzel,
her
yeah,
and Denzel.
Yeah, but I was afraid I missed like a scene.
See, that's
With the other two, I was going to name The Help, which she was nominated for. One for Fences, the Oscar, and The Woman King, which rules.
Yes, I love
It's the best. All right, this is a good one. Coal Miner's Daughter, one of my favorite movies ever. So watch it. Lincoln, about Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men.
Is he in the DC?
And The Fugitive.
Tommy Lee Jones from Two Face, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Tommy Lee
damn.
Jones.
I was gonna say Josh Brolin, so I would have got it wrong.
Yeah, that's
as
yeah.
in-
All right, where are we? Let's wait for
Let's
the
look at
judges.
That was
the
nerve-wracking.
score.
Tabulate
Like
our wins. Is it a tie?
Yeah.
It's a
What are
tie.
the chances?
Wow.
We were
That's
on the same
amazing.
page.
That is a tie. I think we should give the second one to me and say I won because he got it wrong. We both got it wrong, and then I got it right.
I got Colin Farrell
no,
in
you
one,
can't get it
so I
right
got
the
the
second
harder
time.
We're
challenge.
in extenuating circumstances.
Colin Farrell in one, it should be a higher point value if I didn't have any other
Wow,
clues.
I
So I'm
didn't
just
get
saying.
we.
We do have a tiebreaker question.
Yes.
And this is going to be tougher.
Okay.
This is going to be more trivia focused. So I'm going to read out a couple trivia questions.
Okay.
And you're going to guess the actor. This actor may arguably be capable of real acts of super strength. Over the last 10 years, this actor has been crowned the highest paid actor.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
That's the right answer, Dwayne The
Don't
Rock Johnson.
play with
Damn.
me.
I couldn't even finish the question.
I love him.
He's
so
very
You
much.
strong,
love
highly
him.
paid.
I
Like
love
Adam
him
himself.
so much.
Well, Frankie, you are the winner this week. The next game we have Koi. I wish.
Once
you
I get warmed
luck.
up, that was fun.
I
like
would have
that a lot.
never forgiven myself if I got that wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, thank you both for playing. Thank you for indulging me. And seriously, watch some of those movies. They're great. Coal
Yes,
Miner's
yes,
Daughter.
Yeah, I've actually.
About
What is that
Loretta
about?
Lynn. It's about Loretta Lynn, the
Okay.
country singer. Sissy Spacek plays her. She sings her own songs.
Ooh.
Won an Oscar for it. Tommy Lee Jones plays her husband. It's wonderful. That's like comfort food for me.
I feel closer to you. Is this how you feel all the time when we're talking like DC?
Yeah, like, I'm
Yeah,
so
kind of,
heartwarmed
yeah.
with your
This is
love
a
of
lot.
this.
This is my nerdery.
I love it.
Can we all watch SWAT
Welcome.
together?
Nerds Unite.
Yeah, I guess I should watch SWAT.
We could watch SWAT. Well, I've seen SWAT, but
It's so
I'd
good.
watch SWAT with you.
Okay,
And you can
perfect.
I'll give you like I guess. Easter
Fun
eggs
fact
and
about
stuff.
SWAT: Jeremy Renner got a breakthrough Actor of the Year award for SWAT, but he also had gotten one for Dahmer, and then he got another one again for Mission Impossible. So that man keeps breaking through.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good
he's
for
incredible.
him.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all we have for today. This was a fun episode. My heart is still beating from that game.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of DC Studio Showcase. You can stream us every other Friday
Yep.
on Max, or you can watch us on Max's YouTube. People can also listen to us anywhere podcasts are available. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good jazz. I'm nerd commentator Frankie Smith.
I'm entertainment journalist Tyler Coates.
I've been your comic book correspondent, Coy Jandro, and if you want to read any of the comics that I talked about this episode, check out the DC Universe Infinite app, which is DC's online comic catalog, or you can support your local comic shop. Either way, read some comics and have fun doing it.